Hey everybody, this is Dan Stolbarger and it's Shabbat, so we're safe and sound in Jerusalem. And I'm standing outside of the Jaffa Gate, one of my favorite gates. And I thought I would just take a moment because we kind of go from Shabbat to Shabbat in terms of our scheduling for the Israeli School of Discipleship, or the Israel School of Discipleship. And this is sort of the end of our first session where we've been down in the desert, in the wilderness, and just yesterday we made our ascent up to Jerusalem. So just some reflections to let you know what we've been up to and what the Lord has been saying to us. We started in a hotel that was close to the airport, and our very first day we made our way first of all to the city of Sderot. Now, as you probably know, Sderot has been the recipient of over 10,000 Katyusha rockets over the year fired from Gaza, and so we felt it would be a good stop for our students to be able to get a glimpse of, understand, and it's sort of that Issachar flavor of understanding what's really going on in the world and then what we might do about it. And so we stopped in a park and we had our prayer and devotion time there. And then we stayed down in Eilat, and we stayed at a hostel there in Eilat. And on one of the days we went to Timnah, and at Timnah they have a wilderness tabernacle set up. You're just out in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. A great time not only to reflect on how Yeshua fulfills everything in the tabernacle, from the door to the laver to the bronze altar, the brazen altar, and to the implements that are inside the holy place, table of showbread, menorah, and the golden altar, and then finally into the Holy of Holies itself. And Ali, our guide, is just a tremendous asset and a believer, and was able to just paint such a clear picture of how Jesus is the fulfillment of every one of those things. And then we took our group sort of on a sojourn, a walkabout, and we just spent some solitary time trying to kind of get our lives in order, try to get the wax out of our ears to prepare us, because one of the words that I feel like God gave me to share with this group is that He's speaking and we need to make sure that we're listening. In fact, it's been such a heavy thing for me that in this month's Spyglass I've written an article that's called Listen Up, and I hope that you access that and take that in. Well, the next day, we actually, when we're in Eilat, we're right on the borders of both Jordan as well as Egypt. So we made sure that we spent time in the morning after our devotions. We've been going through the Psalms in the morning, and then in the evening, we've been studying the Gospel of Mark. So after our morning devotions, we went and we stood on the borders of Jordan. We could see Saudi Arabia off in the distance, and then over to the Egyptian border, standing, holding hands in circle, praying, not only for the peace of Jerusalem, not only for Israeli eyes to be open, but for Egyptian eyes to be open, for Jordanian eyes to be open, for the Saudis' eyes to be opened. And we just sort of felt like, you know, those are the weapons of our warfare. Don't underestimate them. And we believe that we shook the gates of hell that day. And I want to encourage you to be ramping up and understanding the power of prayer in this day, especially as we see this darkness fastly approaching. And then as we left the desert, we stopped at the ancient city of Arad, and we have a friend there, Rick, who has an amazing, he's a sculptor, and amazing story, amazing testimony, and he's put together he's got 7 panels, and he's put together 6 panels, I'm sorry, and he's put together the last 7 words of Yeshua on the cross, as well as the Holocaust. And it's such a gut-wrenching, moving experience. It's called, whoops, let me correct this. We're not perfect out here. This is a one-man show. It's called The Fountain of Tears. And if you ever get a chance to take that in, it's a must-see. It's a must experience. It's much like Yad Vashem. When you walk out, you just sort of, Psalm 22, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And the cup of sorrows being poured out. Well, I could go on, but let's just say, I'm sure it was a memory that all of our ISODers will never forget. And then we made our way over to Ashdod, and there's a Messianic congregation in Ashdod called the Voice of Judah, and amazing congregation. We were able to put together 200 food packages. That particular evening, they were opening their doors to the needy and to the poor. And they've had a tremendous ministry, and yet with opposition. One of my friends encouraged me that to look for Messianic congregations to work alongside of or to work under, so that when we're gone, which is most of the time, right, that those that we work under can have the testimony of what they've been doing and providing. So we're sort of the unseen. We love that role. We'll be the unseen. But we were so blessed to be able to serve this community in Ashdod. Not only were they opening their doors, but one of our folks said, have you experienced any opposition? And the reality is they've had thousands of Orthodox in the streets right outside their doors, screaming and yelling, because they're seeing, in their eyes, they're seeing souls being stolen, in a sense, because this community, this Messianic fellowship is reaching out and serving, and by doing so, answering questions when they come up as to why are you doing this? Why do you care so much about us? And so the wind's picking up here, so I think I'll have to hang on to the camera as well, so bear with me. Anyhow, we want to pray for the Voice of Judah. And the pastor's name of all names is Israel. We want to pray for him, and that this ministry would just continue to flourish, because, friends, Messianic congregations are popping up all over Israel. Israeli eyes are being opened in this day. What an exciting time for the church, for believers to come alongside of and to serve our Jewish brothers. And then again, just sort of wrapping up the experience down in the desert, we went and spent time, about half a day, in Gedi. And of course, in Gedi's where David wrote most of the Psalms. We gave assignments to all of our people. We said, why don't you write Psalm 151? Blown away, just blown away as I listened to some of these Psalms that our students have written. We're going to post them on the website once we get back. But again, the place that we know David was at, we know David wrote the Psalms there. And we spoke about because we're studying the Psalms, we talked about how important it is to understand the emotions of David as he's writing. Again, of all the things that the writer of Samuel could have said about David at the end of his life, he could have said, here lies David the giant killer, or here lies David the greatest king of all of Israel. But he concluded by saying, here lies the sweet psalmist of Israel. And as we know, if David had his way, he would have probably been a gatekeeper or the worship leader in the house of the Lord. So a very special place and a very special time for our students to reflect upon the Psalms, write their own Psalms, and of course hike all the way up to David's waterfall. And then, in sort of wrapping this up, last night, after getting to Jerusalem, we had a Shabbat dinner with our friend that has a ministry called Springs of Mercy, Lisa. And Springs of Mercy is a ministry that reaches out, that supports, and that loves victims of terror. And this so impacted us that I'm going to point you back to this month's Spyglass because my wife's article is specifically on Springs of Mercy. I've been blessed that during our next tour, our Talmudim tour, they're actually having a yearly conference here, and I've been asked to speak at the conference, sort of wrapping it up, concerning a believer's perspective of the battle for Jerusalem. So, I mean, I'm overwhelmed by this task, and I'm asking all of you that watch this to make sure that you spend time praying that the message that I give is truly anointed by the Lord. So this is week 1 of our very first Israel School of Discipleship. We fondly call it ISOD. And I just want to encourage you to pray about a trip something like this for your life. Our next tour that we have scheduled for ISOD is in June. You can access more information by going to or emailing my wife, Sharon, at khouse.org. I'm sure that up on our websites right now, you can see links to that as well. So please be praying with us. We're done with week 1. We're spending our time here in Jerusalem over the next 4 or 5 days, and then we'll be up to Galilee for a week, and then we'll be over to the Med for a week. So again, this is Dan Stolbarger. This is the Jaffa Gate, Jerusalem, and next Shabbat I'll be doing another recording about what we've experienced up to this time. Shabbat Shalom. God bless you all. See you in a week.